Good evening, traders. Welcome to the CloudChartist weekly Ichimoku wrap. This is Sunday, October 2nd. This is for the week ending September 30th, Friday. All right, let's just get going here. So we're looking at the weekly. We see last week we put in oh, by the way, it's about 5:45, so depending on how fast I go, we might get the new candles opening while I'm in the middle of the video. So if you see, I'll mention that if it happens. So we see that last week we put in a long-legged doji type candle. We have a very thin body on last week's candle. It's an inside candle. We were unable to put in a higher high or a lower low, so we put in a lower high and a higher low. So inside of last week's, or the prior week's candle. So no change of trend there. The trend is still up. And we put in, most significantly, a close above the Tenkan-sen. So the ES is still bullish in always Ichimoku. If we do find selling this week, then we can look to find support at the Tenkan-sen, which is currently flat at 21.4588. And then if we do move higher, we can see that we do have multiple levels to work with as far as potential resistance. Most specifically, probably this the 21.7925 area that was the open of this candle. That this area seems to be, 21.80 seems to be definitely a potential resistance point if we do move higher. If we do, for some reason, lose the Tenkan-sen, then there's a lot of space between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, so we could look for some levels in between there, but I will cross that bridge when we come to it. I will just mention one of the techniques that I normally use to determine other levels between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, if the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are far apart, is I like to draw fibs. So I would start drawing the fib from the Tenkan-sen and then go to the Kijun-sen and then use those levels in between. This area right here where we got the reversal off looks to be right around probably a halfway between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. Let's move on to the Russell. The Russell saw a lot of pressure on Thursday when Deutsche Bank sold off and the financials took the peripheral hit. And I believe that the Russell has been sort of leading the ES, so the Russell not as bullish as the ES at the moment. And actually this trend line we see here was from a shorter time frame. I'll have to show you in a sec. But we do still have a fully bullish Ichimoku chart for the Russell. We're not overbought, and this is a hammer type pattern. You see that we did sell all the way down slightly below the Tenkan-sen, but we did hold the Tenkan-sen and put in a significant bounce and closed pretty close to the highs, really. But the candle is still red, so it's also, like the ES, an inside candle. So I'll just show you what that trend line was about. I was looking at the hourly, I believe. I was trading in my room. We were trading TF intraday, so I just drew this simple trend line from these highs using these points, and you see that we did hit that trend line and sell very predictably and nicely. So on the hourly time frame, since we happen to be here, you see that we sold off after hitting this trend line, came down, tried to find support at the cloud, and did get a little bit of a bounce on the new opening candle on the hourly, and then continued to find sellers and tried to find support at the cloud. And indeed we did find support at the cloud, and now the last hourly candle did put in a little bit of a bounce here. If we do find selling again on the hourly time frame, we do have nice support confluent at the top of the cloud and the Tenkan-sen around 12.43.8, something like that. So if we do get more selling, look for that 12.43.8 area, and then the cloud is at 12.43.6, so right around that level to find support on the hourly. But this is not the hourly Ichimoku wrap. This is the weekly Ichimoku wrap. So we'll go back to the weekly, and we'll move along to the NASDAQ. And now we'll zoom in a little bit. So the NASDAQ, let's see, we also put in an inside candle, hammer type candle, slightly bigger body, but we did close slightly off the highs. This could be looked upon, let me zoom in again. This could be looked upon as tweezer tops on these two candles, which could suggest the potential for a reversal to the downside. If we do find sellers, we can look to find support at the flat Tenkan-sen at 47.5875. We are pretty extended above the cloud for the moment on the NASDAQ. So there is the risk of being attracted back towards the cloud, but we are not overbought. And actually in the future, we have a healthy looking rising cloud. That's not to the beginning of next year though, however. Let's move along to the YM, the Dow futures. So the Dow has been, price action has still been rejected by the Tenkan-sen on a closing basis, so we are not as bullish on this index at the moment, as we are unable to put in a close above the Tenkan-sen at 18,223. So that is resistance for now. Looks like we're asking for a range trade here on the Dow, with the boundaries being the Tenkan-sen at 18,223 and the Kijun-sen down here at 17,792. Although we do have a bit of a floor here as well, around 17,947 thereabouts. So if we do find sellers, look for a potential support around this level as well. We have another level here, but it's important if you want to be bullish for the Dow that we do put in a close over the Tenkan-sen. Let's look at gold. Gold has been somewhat tricky, but trading very nicely with Ichimoku Charts, and silver as well. So gold, after putting in a close above the Tenkan-sen last week, was unable to hold the Tenkan-sen and close inside the range between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. Not that different from the Dow, really. So we're about halfway between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen at the moment. So we could potentially find support at this prior support level. We see that we found support around 13, let's see, what was the low here? Around 1308. We found support here, and then we bounced again. This low was around 13. Let's call it 1310 for ease of memory. So we consistently have found support around the 1310 area. So if we do find more sellers, it's only $8 lower from here. We'll see what happens when we get to that level. If for some reason we aren't able to hold that 1310 area, then we could come down and test the Kijun-sen below at 1289. But overall, this chart looks pretty bullish. We do have a nice rising cloud to offer support. It's already rising and thickening right below the current time frame here. So that it does look nice and bullish on gold, except for the fact that it can't put in a close, that it needs to put in a close above the Tenkan-sen. So it really needs to get back over 1340 if you really want to be bullish on gold on the weekly time frame. Let's look at silver. Similar to gold, try to bear with my fibs. Those are from shorter time frames. I just don't feel like hiding them at the moment. We'll just get through this chart quickly. So we see the Tenkan-sen. Hopefully you can see the Tenkan-sen hiding in there. After last week's close above the Tenkan-sen, we've lost the Tenkan-sen and put in a close between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. We do keep holding this, let's see exactly, that was 1883 level as support. So if we do find more selling, we can look for that area to offer support. We did put in a hammer candle, or not really hammer, but like a decent bottoming tail on last week's candle, although still pretty thick red candle. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with silver on the weekly time frame going forward. If we want to look at shorter time frames, I was looking more at the 4-hour chart, and that's what my fibs were based on. and you see that we did, after making that bullish move, we were unable to get above the 4-hour cloud on silver and put in a reversal and then sold back, and not only lost the cloud, we also lost the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen. And we came down and we see that we have a lot of support at this 1914, 1915 level. That's always been a supportive level for silver when it's been in this general area. So that area could offer support for silver in the near term. And then we do have resistance above here at the cloud. So just that's a little hint on a shorter time frame on the 4-hour for silver. Let's move back to the weekly and look at some bonds. Looking at the 30-year, we see that we put in a close below the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen after spiking through it. We are still technically in an uptrend and we are still bullish, but it's important for price to get back above the Kijun Sen and the Tenkan Sen if you want to be fully bullish on bonds. If we do find sellers, we have some, the top of this rectangle consolidation area could offer support. That's around 166.25, something like that. And then if we did continue to sell and not find support at that levels area, we could come down and find support at this 164.13 area, which is where we bounced on these tweezer bottoms previously. But so bonds are pretty bullish here. It has a nice supportive rising cloud, but unable to get above the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen. Let's look at the 10-year notes. 10-year is in an uptrend, but this is a gravestone type doji, big topping tail on this candle, and got rejected by the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen. We also have a bear cross on the Kijun Sen. That means when the pink line, the Kijun Sen, is crossed over the Tenkan Sen, which is the blue line, that is a bear cross. So that's not a particularly bullish situation. It's less bearish than it would be if it was under the cloud, but it's important if you want to get bullish on the 10-year that we get back over the Tenkan Sen at 131.150 and then back over the Kijun Sen at 131.205. If we find more selling, we will have support at the top of the cloud at 129.27. Let's see. Let's look at the Nikkei, shall we? Nikkei is still chopping around underneath the cloud, so Nikkei is still bearish on the weekly time frame. We did manage to put in a close above the Tenkan Sen, and the Tenkan Sen is bull crossed above the Kijun Sen. So we're kind of like between a rock and a hard place, or between a Tenkan Sen and a cloud on the weekly time frame for the Nikkei. When the new candle opens up, it's going to potentially have resistance up here at the cloud at a lower area than last week's candle, just because of this point that's poking down here. So that resistance is located at 167.40. So that could offer resistance as well for the Nikkei. Let's look at the dollar. This measured move was a very short time frame thing, if I remember correctly, so please try to ignore that at the moment. Let's just look at the Ichimoku stuff. Let's just hide it, get it out of the way, because it's a little bit. This is tricky because my menu's on the other on the other monitor. Here, let's just kill it. All right. So last week's candle on the dollar did put in a close above the Tenkan Sen, but it is a doji type candle, long-legged doji type candle, so a lot of indecision with the dollar. The Tenkan Sen is at 95.275 currently, so that is an important level to hold if you want to be bullish on the dollar. But we're still overall bearish because we are still under the cloud for the dollar. If we do find more selling, we could look for potential support at 94.75. Since we're looking at currencies, let's look at the euro. The euro is still in an uptrend, did put in a higher high and a higher low on last week's candle, but was unable to put in a close above the Kijun-sen. The Kijun-sen is bear crossed above the Tenkan-sen, but price action is above the cloud. So it's important, if you want to be bullish on the euro, that we do put in a close above the Kijun-sen at 112.887. If we do find selling, we can look for support at 1.1222 on the 6E euro contract. It's the new market's about to open, so I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you for joining me. If you're interested in learning Ichimoku, you're welcome to check out my chat room. You can read more about that on my website, CloudChartist.com. If you have any questions for me, you can hit me up on Twitter at CloudChartist, or send me an email, cloudchartist@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching, and oh, by the way, please give me a thumbs up on YouTube if you like the video, and feel free to ask questions or leave comments below. And if you're interested in receiving my video notification of me posting any new videos, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, thanks again. Have a great rest of the weekend, and good luck trading this week.